Billing versus billing in Sage Intacct. So first, we're going to jump into Sage 300. So there's a couple modules that we're going to discuss some settings in, and we're going to show you the progress or AIA billing type of billing and the time and material type of billing in 300. And then I'm going to jump over to Intacct and show the same. Okay. So first, in Sage 300, if you have an AIA type of contract, you will use a couple modules. So we're going to assume that the job is set up in the job setup screen. Okay, I'm going to show that screen here for a second and a couple key items in here that you'll need to have set. Okay, so in the job cost module, in the job setup screen, so I've pulled up a sample company with a job here. We're going to use 03001. So on the billing info tab, you need to have the use contracts billing method turned on if you want to use the AIA or progress billing method in here. Okay, so that's key to getting that set up in the contract module. Okay, so let's throw this back over here and let's go to the contract module here. So we're going to open up that contract. And in here you can see your schedule values that you'll set up, your different tabs up here. So we're going to focus on the AIA type progress billing to start, and the couple tabs we want to check here are going to have specific things that we choose. Okay, so on this main high level selection right here where I'm selecting the contract, I've got tabs up here that show. Okay, so you're going to see a different set of tabs when you click down into a contract item or a schedule of values item. So when you click back up here, the billing tab looks a little bit different. So there's some different fields. So I just want to point that out. So in the contract module here, you want to fill in the information here. So you're going to pick the AIA contract type in that general tab here. On the billing tab here, this is where you want to pick a few things. So you want to make sure you pick your progress worksheet view here on the billing worksheet view, and we're still at the high level. And if you have a fee that you want to add on to, and I'll explain rate tables and add-ons and markup tables in a minute, but if you have an add-on table you want to use, then you would put that here. Now, if you are setting up an AIA and you are like a fixed price or a lump sum contract, you might not necessarily use the add-on table because you will put in the dollar amount for each schedule of value line item on those specific items. Okay, so this would be more if you're adding like a fixed percentage to costs or something. Okay, so you do not want that then here if you're doing a fixed fee. Okay, everything else on here is, you can pick, I would pick customer here, make sure that's picked, but everything else here should be the same, or should be like this. let's go over to invoice. So this is where you can tell it to how you want the invoice to format. So if you want it to be 03-001-00, and then for the first invoice, you would put a 1 here, or a 0 here, so that the next invoice that's created would be number 1. So this is just a way to automatically do your draw numbering. So not a huge thing I'm going to focus on here, but you can do some automatic numbering there. Okay, and the rest of the tabs are just informational if you want to fill it out or not, but you can click through them, and some of these are just total tabs. So you get to about the scope area or the contract terms here, the rest is kind of informational. Okay, and the accounts tab, you might want to put your prefix or accounts in here depending on your general ledger setup. You might have prefix, account, etc. on this tab. Okay. I'm going to be focusing on the billing process and not so much some of the GL effect. That'll be another class. Okay, so let's go here to a specific item. So in order to generate an item, you have to add a contract item. Okay, so there's also buttons up here where you can select, like right here, adding a new contract item. So if I did 17 to fall underneath there, and then I could type in my description and kind of see how this works a little bit. So notice when you add the contract item, it pre-fills in the customer, the job number, and some of the other data you've used on the previous items. Okay, delete that. Okay, so when you add a contract item, you're going to fill in a description, the customer, and you're going to pick the job. Okay, on the billing tab here, depending on the type, if you're a lump sum, if it's a progress billing, or cost plus to maximum like this one is, you would pick the different billing types. Okay. So this format here is the one that is recommended if you're doing an AIA type of billing. Now this will not spit out the AIA form, but it spits out one that's very similar to the AIA. It's just not legally the AIA with all the legal language and all the copyrights and such, but it's the same format. You want to put your retainage in here if you're holding retainage on that line item. And then you want to make sure that this checkbox here is checked to send cost to billing. Okay. Over here, you're going to put in your amount for your line item here in the total. And that is about it that you do on an item. Okay, so I'll kind of look through these other tabs here at the, you see there's just not a whole lot. Now you can set these to go to different AR or revenue accounts for each item if you want, but I'd suggest doing it to the same general ledger accounts here. Okay, again, I'll cover general ledger and defaults in another class, but I'm just going to focus on how the billing works in this one. Okay. So once you're done, you've got all your contract items added. You can come up here and you can check the total. Make sure your total agrees here with your schedule values that you're going to issue out. And then you want to come here and you want to approve your contract. Okay, so you want to slide it over to approved. So the different statuses, just real quick, if you click or if you move this to closed, let's say the contract is no longer going to be billed on, and you don't want, maybe costs are done as well. You want to slide this over to closed potentially. Some people just skip that and wait until the contract's paid in full and go all the way over here to when the owner has paid everything on the contract. So depending on how you want to use the system for controls and such, you may or may not use closed, but that's what this area does. Okay, so if you don't move it to approved, it's not going to be available to be billed on, so you want to make sure you do that. Okay, another tidbit in the contract module, if you approve it, it should create an entry, or it should create something that talks to billing and says, okay, this contract is good, it's approved. But if it doesn't, you want to come in here and post, and so it then talks to that billing module. Okay, so let's jump over to billing. So now that I've set that contract up, it's a progress billing. It is available in the contract-based invoices task now. These other ones would be time and material, or a quick bill that you don't use the contract module for. Okay, so this one we're going to pick here. I'm going to pick that top contract, what we're using. Okay, so now you can see your schedule values. The nice thing about the billing module is it rolls your prior billings into the previous work completed. So you can see I can't edit these. They're gray. So it's locked for a reason, so this all rolls correctly. Now, if you want to bill a specific line item, you can just start typing in amounts here. If you want to then say, no, I want this to be really that much, then you can come over here, and we're going to be overbilled, but you can change the amounts in the total, and it'll then adjust over here in your various other percentage build and retainages and such. So you can play with this grid quite a bit, and see it change the percentage, balance to finish, retainage, and retainage balance. So you can also come over here and just do 100%, 95, and it changes all these numbers. Okay. So let's say I want to bill some retainage on this billing. I can just take it out like that, and it adjusts everything that it needs to. Okay. So when you're done with the bill, put these back in here. And you come down here and you'll put like a period end date, whatever you'd like. And let's say I just want to look at it, so I can preview it here. And you can see the AIA similar type of format here. So go to page 2. You can see the schedule values over here. Okay. Once you're ready to print it, you will print final. It'll generate this based on your auto draw numbering on your contract. You can also overwrite it if you'd like, but we're just going to leave it the way it is. Oops, let me change the date here. And now you can see the status to print in. Okay, so we're going to finish this out. And normally you would print that to a printer, more than likely, or to a PDF to email out. And then once you're all done with your invoicing for the month, you want to come in here and post your billing. That then will create the entries to accounts receivable, job cost, general ledger. So that's a quick overview of the billing process for AIA in Sage 300. Okay, so it's not cumbersome. It's fairly simple. The one thing that is probably tedious would be the schedule of values generation. There's no way to really import these in too easily, so you have to add them one by one. So if you have long schedule of values, it's not the most fun to sit here and add all of those. But if you've got your basic divisions here, you can add each item here. Okay. All right, so now let's talk about the time and materials process in Sage 300. Okay, so first I'm going to show the billing module. Billing module houses the markup tables, rate tables, and add-on tables. So the difference between these is the markup tables are for, let's say you have some material that you buy, and per your contract you can mark it up 5%. So the owner agreed to that. You mark up your materials 5%. So you want to create a markup table to for anything that is material that has a 5, and then you get a 5% markup on it. Okay, so you come in here and you can do that with different markups. So your markup table has to have first a standard markup. Okay, so I'm not going to go into great detail how this all works, but the gist of it is you can create markups on various different, if the category is M for material, if it's a certain cost code, etc., you can create markup based on certain criteria. Okay, and put a percentage on it. So the markup tables is generally used in that manner. Add-on tables are more for fee. So if you want to, if you have a time and material project and you want to add 10% to all costs, then you would create a standard fee for that, and you would charge that then to the job. Okay, so you can see here, I can do an amount or percent. Most of the time it's a percent, but you can do a 15% add-on or fee. Think of add-ons as fees, and add that to the project. Okay. Now, rate tables are for labor generally. So when you set up a rate table, you can tell it different things for criteria. So you can say, you can set up a union, rate table. You can set up a pretty standard one that, let me find one here. If it has one in this one. you can set up a pretty standard one that says like anybody that goes to cost code, the superintendent cost code, gets marked up at, or gets a labor rate of $100 an hour, let's say. So let me just start a new one to show that a minute, because this is used quite a bit. So we'll call this standard labor rates. Just call it standard. And the effective date, so you can add multiple tables in here, and you can tell it when you want it to start. So it'll start using that one when the effective date is used here and the through date. So if I say this is for this year, then it will start and stop when my labor, if my labor falls in those dates. Okay, so let's do standard labor rates 2015. Okay, so I want it to be by cost code, and I want to make sure that anybody that hits this cost code gets that specific rate. Okay, so I'm going to use unit price, and I'm going to show you the table here and explain that. Okay, so units will be hours in labor. So basically what you can do here is say anybody that goes to, let's say, a project coordinator, they're at $65 an hour. So anything that gets coded to project coordination at $65 an hour would get $65 an hour marked up to that rate. Okay, so let's say I then realize I might be putting things other than labor in project coordination, maybe some mileage or something. So I want to put the category on it. So I'm going to come in here and put an L in here. So anything that gets coded to this project coordination cost code with the category L is going to be at a rate of $65 an hour. Okay, so that's how you would do that. Okay, so just a real simple description of rate tables there. Okay. So on the contract then, you pull the contract module up. Okay, so in the contract module, here's where you would assign the rate tables for your items. Okay, so if I had put a rate, I wanted to use the standard rate table for this specific project overall, I have to add it to each contract item here. Okay, so you want to make sure that if you start the first one and you put the rate table on here, then when you create the next one and you hit add new contract item, put number 2 in, it will copy this one. It's set up. Okay, so since I didn't do that out of the gate, it's basically not copied into each contract item, but it will make it easy if you set the first one up correctly. Okay, so once you set these rate tables up and you have that marked, then what it's going to do once labor is generated in payroll, as long as you're using hours, encoding it to that job that you have here, it's going to look to that rate table and say, okay, what do you want me to do? If it's a project coordinator, it's 65 bucks an hour. Okay, so it's going to then push it to billing at 65 bucks an hour. The cost, however, is going to hit job cost. The actual cost of that project coordinator is going to hit the job cost module on that job. Okay, so the rate tables only go through to billing at the $65 an hour. So some people like to see the $65 an hour hit the job cost module and be billed out at $65 an hour. That is not capable in Sage 300 with rate tables. Okay, that only affects the billing. So I just want to make sure that that's clear. Okay, so once you set those up, the rate tables will then push that $65 an hour, for example, over to the billing module. Okay. So let's go over to the billing module, and we'll go through a time and material scenario and how to bill those. Okay, so let's go into a report here. So this report is going to show what is to be billed on a time and material type of contract. I'm just going to run it wide open for all jobs and kind of get a flavor of what this does. Zoom in a little bit here. So in the system right now, there is $6,287.50 that is going to be billed on this contract for this May time period. And you can see the breakdown of by cost code and category what it is. Okay, so when the cost is generated for material there on this specific project, you can see there's a difference between the two. So there's a markup going on this material, probably for this cost code, or maybe just material in general. Okay, so there is a markup table on this job in the contract module that I just showed. So same with equipment. So equipment has a rate table being used. So labor is generally what's used for rate tables, but equipment has also a rate table that can be used. So on this one, the billed unit price is higher than the unit cost. So you can see that the rate table is coming into play. So it's taking the 5 units times 150 to get to the 750. And but then on the cost side, it's taking 5 times 25 to get to 125. Okay, so this cost amount column is what hits job costs, and what is in job cost right now. But what is going to be billed is over here, and this has not been generated yet. So when I ran this report, I'll run it again here. I picked unbilled, and you want to pick active here. So this is what has not been billed yet. Okay, so let's say you review this, and maybe you don't. Maybe you want to bring this price down, or maybe you want to get rid of something. You're not going to bill for something. The next step that you'd want to do is come in here and change it. Okay, so the first task here, so you kind of follow these in order. So the first thing you do before you look at the WIP report, you're going to want to generate WIP. Okay, so what this does is it brings the costs in, applies the rate tables and such. So I usually condition it for the one contract or job, and then you just basically hit the start button. Okay, so you can review the printout and see what happens, but it basically just tells you it generated, X entries, and it throws it into the queue of WIP to be billed. So then it'll come through on this report. Okay, so WIP has already been generated for this time period for this contract. Okay. So once you do that, you look at that report and you don't like something, you can come in here and change it. You can put a cutoff date in here if you want to not see all costs. You just want to see it through a certain time period. So once this pulls up, you can see each line item that is in that WIP report to be billed. Okay, so what you can do here, you can click on a line, you can hold it, you can void it, or you can tell it to bill it, which is what the status is right now. So if you want to get rid of it and you're never going to bill it, you want to void it. If you're going to hold it and maybe bill it later, then just put the status to hold. Okay. You can come over here as well and say, you know, I want to change it to $100 an hour. Okay, so you can see the fields you can't change are grayed out. So just a tidbit there. And here's some more information if you wanted to see maybe the vendor, different items here. Okay, so let's say you you are good with this. You're gonna basically bill that. So we're gonna get out of here. So I'm going to come here to generate cost-based invoices. Okay, now I could say I want to cut it off as of a specific WIP date or accounting date. I always check this. I generally use the WIP date. Okay, but generally once you put a date in here, let me just do it. You want to check that, include WIP records with no accounting date. Usually you want to put a customer, you want to put a filter on here. You might bill just a contract at a time. So I need to look up who that customer is on that contract because I didn't note that. So let me look that up here. Now just a tidbit. If you have this open in contract module and you try to bill on it, it doesn't like that. It won't let you. So we need to make sure we close out of it. So PGE is the customer. So we're going to come back to billing. We're going to generate cost-based invoices. And I want to do it only for that one contract. Okay, so I'm putting my print files to, or my printouts to I have a printout. I turned on the printout structures to go to files, electronic files. So we'll go look at that when we're done. Let me put a date in here. Okay, let's go look at that printout. Should be this top one here. And this is what it has generated. Okay, so now when I am ready to print that out, you need to come in here to approve it. So this is the easiest way to do it. There's other methods that you could do this in mass, but I like to come in here and approve it. All you have to do, it saves it, so all you have to do is hit close. And let's preview it. Now you don't have to put any filters on here. You can preview it and it'll give you a window. So let's look at this. And you can see now what it's going to look like when you actually print the form out. Okay, and then obviously you can customize these forms and pick different forms. But here's what that specific contract is going to do when you bill it. So once you preview it, you can then print final and do that process and print it. So it's the same kind of screen. And then once you've printed final, you're ready to post. So I like to do all my invoices for the month, send them out, make sure nobody has corrections, and then I will post. It depends on your process, I guess, but that's the easiest way to undo. If you needed to change the invoice, then you can come in here and easily just turn it back to pending and change some things on it. If you've already posted it, then you have to go into AR and void it and reinstate it. It's not a big deal, but if you can delay, it's easier. Then you can just come back in here and change it quick and regenerate. Okay. So let's say you change a rate table, or you do something where you might need to regenerate WIP because you've changed a rate table, for example. Then you can regenerate WIP and it'll recalculate those things. And in this screen, it will change it'll actually change the amount over here. Okay. Okay, so that is a quick overview of progress billing, time and material billing in Sage 300. So now let's look at how you can do it in Sage Intacct. Okay, let's drag Intacct over here. Okay, so in Intacct, let's get to the jobs projects area. We're going to look at the contracts area. Okay, so this is just like the contracts module in Sage 300. Not just like, it's the counterpart to it. Okay, so let's look at this community park building contract. So let's pull it up here. Okay, so the top header information up here is pretty self-explanatory. You put the contract name here, usually similar to the job name, and you will pick your type, which you can add different types, but you could pick your type here of contract. Okay, so this is a fixed fee one. Contract date, it's billable, active. Okay, then you're going to come down here and you're going to add your contract lines. Okay, so something that is also available is the ability to import these contract lines in. Okay, so just so you know, that's a difference between 300 and Intacct. It's you're capable of importing this in. Okay, so if we add another line here, you simply just click the add button and whatever you want to name it. Again, this is all importable, so It doesn't. I'm just showing you how you could manually add something here. I'm just going to pick, okay. Now this is an overview, so to know how to do this with all the fields I'm showing, there's going to be more classes, but this is to give you a flavor of how it works inside Intacct. Okay, so I don't have a price, so let's go back in there. Let's edit that. Put something in there. Okay. So now I can bill, or I can bill on this contract. It had some already set up in here. So let's show you how that works. Let's get out of here. Okay, so we were in this area to create the contract. So working on a progress bill, fixed fee contract right now. So let's go over here to generate invoices. Okay, and I want my invoice date to be, I'm going to put this out to May because I've done some already for these other months. And I want to bill at the contract level. So I just want to bill for the one contract. Okay. Okay, now we're going to hit preview. And it's going to bring up a screen that we can then type amounts in to bill to the customer. Okay, so we do need to put an application number in here. And then down here is where you're going to come in, just like in that billing module in 300. You're going to come in here and you're going to type your various amounts. And it works pretty similar, so you can type in you know, different places, and it updates your various fields. Okay, so if I wanted to bill retainage, you know, again, I could zero out this, and it doesn't, it takes out the holding of this period amount. Okay, so this is very similar to that billing area in Sage 300. Okay, so once you're done and you're good with all the amounts, then you come up here and you hit create invoice. Okay, so this invoice was created, so we can come over here and we can view it. Now we can print preview it. So you want to hit print or email. It's going to bring up a screen for you. So let's print it, which I'll print to a browser, another tab up here. And it now gives you the AIA type format that you can print out and send to the customer. Now this can be customized, and you know, boxes can be moved around if you know, this isn't the exact form you want. You know, font can be made bigger, etc. But this is a print preview of that, so you can see the amounts we put in there. Okay, so if you want to email it out, you can click the email box. You can set up things to where in the system to where it will email out the document and pre-fill in their email addresses, and it'll pre-fill the email template in for you. Okay. All right, so that's how you do a progress billing inside of Intacct. Okay, now for a time and material type of billing, we want to make sure on the job, first of all, that the billing type is set to time and material. Okay, and you want to check mark these boxes here. Again, there's more detailed classes on how to, do everything on job setup, setting up time and material. Okay, but this is just some highlights here. So on the job, you want to make sure billing type is time and material, and then you want to generate and assign billing rates. So in order to assign rates, you want to come to this resources and pricing tab. Okay, so one thing that is easier in Intacct is setting up your billable rates and your fees and such. You can do it all right here. So in 300, you had to go into different areas, and you kind of have to know some of the tricks and the tables, but in here it's pretty self-explanatory and very easy to fill out. So if I want my dentist employee to have a billable rate of that, it's as simple as setting it just like that. Okay, so now we want to probably put a start date though, however, something of that fashion. Okay, so if you want any expenses or credit cards to be marked up or AP, then you would put that in here as well. Okay, so if we want to add a fee to our different items here. So let's say on the concrete, I want to add 15%. Then you can come in here and pick the item and set the rate. Now what I did just there was I set a rate for this column as a default, but if I want to do this at 10, then I can certainly change it right there. Okay, and then let's say I want to mark up my equipment at 5, then I can do that as well. So here it sets like a default, and you can override it by typing in the number here. So anything that's coded to equipment, that's an expense or credit card, we get a 5% markup. Anything that's an AP or a PO, we get a 2% markup. Okay, so that's how this generally works. So you can do the markups and the rates and the and all that here a little easier than in 300. Okay. So now let's take a look at how you would invoice on a time and materials type of project. So we're going to use the same generate invoices screen here. And I don't want to save my changes, so I'm going to leave that. Okay. Okay, we're going to put January date in here. Bill for that time and material. I usually use the same bill through date. And we're going to preview it. So this will bring up the screen that has costs related to this time and materials project that have not been billed on yet. Okay, so right now, I'll go down slowly through this. So here's some basic information that pre-fills for you. You can put some other items in here if you want. So we need to put a number in there. Now what you see down here are your various areas of the system where, like, if they had a timesheet entry, so labor or employee expenses, accounts payable bills, so there's a bill that was in the system that hasn't been billed on yet, any purchase orders, and any order entry or general ledger transactions that are billable. Okay, so for this time period there was an invoice in here, so you can see it gives you some of that information from the AP bill. So you can also click here and see the actual who it was, you know, what it was for, and the history on it. Okay, so let's say you don't like the $2,500. You might want to change it. You can do that right here. Okay, you can put a description in if you'd like, and then if you want to hold retainage, if you didn't set it and you wanted to do that after the fact, you know, you could do that as well. But let's say you are good with this the way it was. You're going to hit create invoice, just like we did with the AIA or progress billing. So it is giving me a warning message that I need to actually come down here and select it. So, and put to a contract line. So let me do that. Okay, so let's get that. And let's create invoice again. And that was successfully created. So let's go look at this invoice. Right here. And we can hit print or email to view it, like we did on the other ones. Okay, so the main differences between the two systems is there's some more importable functionality, so you can import your schedule of values. The projects screen or job screen is where you set your various rates and markups and such, is all in one spot. Okay, and then just little more user friendly with being able to see the time and expenses on the preview screen. When we hit preview, we would see those that $2,500 invoice and all your invoices and all of your bills and timesheet entries, and you can adjust them right there. So in 300, you have to go into certain screens to do that. You have to regenerate WIP. So it's a little more cumbersome in 300. It's still doable, but there's more ease in Intacct here for some of it. But if you need assistance on 300, how to get the contract and billing module to work with the rate tables a little more appropriately or better than what you might be doing, reach out to us. Or if you're interested in Intacct or using Intacct and want help there in these different areas as well, we can definitely assist you there. We do have various videos that go into detail on how to do the rate tables a little better, how to do the time and material and progress billing, and it goes through all the fields a little more in detail. But reach out to us at help@bangertinc.com and we can assist you further. Thank you for your time today.